What are you up to, Max?
Well, I was just trying to decide if gold is the leader.
Yeah.
Which one of these two is number 2? Is it this one because he's got the slightly rosier cheeks, or is it him because he's got the slightly wider head?
What?
Obviously, by having a slightly wider head, if I can quote from Sherlock Holmes, it's a matter of cubic capacity. He must have something in his head. So he's possibly the more intelligent, and also because he's got such a big head, that would also seem to indicate somebody of physical robustness, so might make a better second in command than the slightly more effete one with the rosy cheek.
You have way too much time on your hands.
Kinda do.
Maybe moment.
Good evening, bonjour, and good night.
Guten Tag as well.
Oh, just to be properly European.
Yes.
Howdy ho.
And not forgetting our American cousins.
I guess, yeah. Don't forget the people in the States.
We are Maybe Movies. My name is Max.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Tam Seri.
Tam Seri. I have to change how I... It could
Is it
be
this
him.
guy?
It could be that guy. You've been with us for the rest of March. That's really going to annoy me. Then you'll know that we've been swapping around characters between the Count of Monte Cristo and V for Vendetta, and we are up to Act 2 of the Count of Vendetta, which actually makes sense because he sets himself up as an Italian count, does he?
Yes. Oh, Vendetta, of course. Yes. I see what you mean. I didn't even cross my brain. Yeah, good one. Good one.
Right.
By the way, I think that was Morse code for join us.
Yes, there is always room in delirium. To try and avoid what happened this month where we had to announce the results of February's Maybe Movies on the second episode of the month because of how we do the poll. We're actually putting the poll up as of today, which will run through until Saturday so that we can get the votes in before then and we can announce it as we want to on the pitch meeting for next month. So do watch back over, have a look and cast your vote. It'll be pinned to our Twitter feed, and then also if you're a patron there'll be a poll running for patrons as well. So before we begin, very quickly I'm going to do a very quick shout out for Professor Bill.
Professor Bill.
Professor Bill from Comic Book University.
Oh, nice.
He knows his stuff very well. Professor Bill, he's also a games master. I've watched several of his seasons that he's done, GMing the old Marvel Phase game.
Yes.
But yes, his own channel is more dedicated to upcoming or newly released comics and his interpretations of them, his impressions of them, as well as other sort of Marvel or comic related stuff, whether it's films or whatever.
Splendid.
Yes, obviously, as always, links will be in the description below.
Act 2.
Yes, so a couple of things again that I picked up on that I didn't mention last time. I'm assuming in our new version of this he's not prisoner number 27, he's prisoner number 5.
Of course.
Yes.
And then we get the notification of death, which have already happened at the end of the last act. I'm going to go and sort that out now.
Yes.
We'll take over from here, Max, don't worry.
Please do.
Right, yes, so...
Please start, Sam.
Okay, so yes, the knocking on the wall, introduction of Abbe Faria. And, that's the whole bit when he shows off his room, the sum total of man's knowledge and all of that stuff. Which is great, because that really explains why V is so eloquent later on.
Yes.
You know, it's one of those things he
right.
kind of never gets explained in V for Vendetta, but here, he is being given an education whilst he's in the prison.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which is nice. I like that. The bit with Mondego's mistress.
Yes, most of that stuff is going to be the same, and yet
Welcome back.
Yeah.
percussive maintenance.
Never be overlooked. Percussive maintenance is effective. Even in IT. The number of times I've just thumped a printer and it's worked.
You think that the guy who plays the Abbe Faria looked a bit like Jonathan Pryce?
You know what? Now you mention it. Yes.
Yeah, I see that.
This kind of scene, I was wondering if there's a couple of things we can do with this.
Well, sorry, which scene are we talking
Sorry,
about?
I'm just talking about all of the things, all that whole sequence in the prison.
Oh, right, yes, yeah.
Because I think V is a lot more, burning with revenge, or with hatred, and this lust for revenge.
Yeah.
And as I said in a previous episode, he does, in V for Vendetta, display a sense of piety. He's very kind of... he sees himself as passing judgment in God's stead, if you like.
Yeah,
But the fact that the Abbé is most likely a Catholic. Guy Fawkes was a Catholic.
Okay, yeah.
And obviously would have been a matter of history because the Gunpowder Plot was 1605 and we're early 19th century.
Are you saying that is a way to use the very mask?
Basically.
So we still get these...
Yeah.
The oh, brilliant. Yep. Yeah.
It makes sense, obviously, especially at the time, because France was a predominantly Catholic country. Well, it was officially a Catholic country until the early 20th century.
Oh, right.
When they actually separated church from state.
They did it as late as that?
Yes.
But yeah, well, cool.
But I also thought, as a way of maybe kind of winning him over a bit more, you could have, when they first meet, something like his wounds have become infected, so the Abbé has to treat it.
Okay, yeah. So in a way, the Abbé's death later on will also become another thing that fuels his
Exactly.
vendetta.
Yeah.
Because he'd be even more beholden to the Abbé because of this.
Mm-hmm. And possibly, we could even argue that maybe he wasn't such a religious man in his early days, but whilst he was nursing him back to health, he's essentially built him back up from the ground up. So he sees himself as a weapon of God. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. In this particular version, though, it's all revenge in the act of God.
It depends, because obviously in V for Vendetta, as that conversation between him and Evie, what they did to me was monstrous, and they created a monster.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that he can explain to himself justify to himself what he's doing is that he's doing it in the Lord's name.
Of course, and that would make sense in that time as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's trying to justify his intentions by framing them as being righteous.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because, of course, he's literally going to have a burning need for vengeance anyway. But yeah, for a justification, a moral justification.
But again, aside from those little bits thrown in, the majority of that sequence would be the same, I'm guessing.
Yes, because these are all... He's trapped. I mean, his actions are... There are very little opportunities for him to change the plot at this point.
Yeah.
He's still trapped, and all the other stuff in the background is still going to be happening. With Mondego's mistresses and danglers finagling with the treasurer and all that stuff.
Cool. So, his escape.
His escape.
Be the next bit.
Right, okay.
Obviously, that runs the same. Do we want to allow V a little bit more license to do what V might do and try and blow up the Chateau d'If? I don't know. Again, my thinking was obviously they must have... Well, they've got cannons. We know they've got cannons because they've got cannonballs. So they must have gunpowder. We know when they go to get the cannonball to weight him down, they leave the cell door open.
It should go with a bang, because if we're adding V to it, it then adds the whole Guy Fawkes side of it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes. Yeah, we've got to remember that. Have a gold star, that man.
Can I?
Yes, you can.
We kind of forgot a kind of a vital element of the story.
Thank you.
That well deserved there. So he's not going to hide in the shroud and try and get out that way.
Yeah, something a bit more with a bang.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe if he finds the powder room where they store all the gunpowder, and he could set a long fuse on it and leg it.
He could leg it like Batman.
He could leg it like Batman. I suppose the only thing here is then, would he release any of the other prisoners?
Oh. If there's other prisoners involved, then yes.
I mean, certainly when they get there, it depends on how many are still there by the time that this happens, because it's like 16 years later.
But there'll be prisoners there, yeah?
Yeah.
Then I think they would do that.
I mean, I know in the ledger that they mentioned there are 3 prisoners who have been here so long that we don't need to work more, whose names are forgotten to history. But it's the way it's said, you can't tell whether that means there are only 3 prisoners here.
Well, no, I was just going to say, without going into too much detail, I think he just still freed them, but there's just a sequence where...
Similar to like you get in V, where you see everybody scattering.
Yeah, okay, yes.
The odd guard being whacked and then hide in the shadows or something like that in the building.
Yeah, so we can get to the powder room.
Prisoners
Yeah.
look through the bar and they're like, what?
So he could even be on his way out. He just throws the keys through one of the doors.
Yeah.
Get yourselves out.
He opens one
Yeah.
gate,
Gives them the keys and then
slides it down.
Yes. Well, I mean, because he gets to free the prisoners, but also if you think that's a great way of making sure that any guards aren't going to be looking at him while he's doing stuff in the powder room while the other prisoners are running amok.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. And then we get the pirates.
Oh, yes.
Or the smugglers.
So, right.
Are we keeping then Jacopo and Ali with him as his confidants?
Yes.
Yes, if anything, even more so, because unlike Monte Cristo, like Dante's, he cannot appear as himself in public.
True.
Even if he wears a mask, it will be so distinctive and singular that it will draw the wrong kind of attention to him.
Mm-hmm.
He needs those guys to go out into the world and find out shit for him.
Mm.
Definitely.
Yeah. I quite like that one. He should have a gold star now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think it. Yeah, I think it does matter. It really does matter. I
So-
mean, we always knew his vengeance was going to be more violent, but
Yes.
especially because he's almost completely excluded from the social world. How else could he exact his vengeance?
Exactly.
You know?
If we go along with the story as it is, Jacopo goes to Paris, Ali and V go to Albania. But again, so I suppose we have to consider at this point, when it comes to his revenge, because V doesn't tend to publicly humiliate people as much as Dantes does. He wants to kill them.
Well, no, I mean, he doesn't publicly humiliate them, but he's not afraid of being public
No.
in his actions, but he's not able to move in social circles.
But when he extracts his revenge, it's very personal, so it's very face-to-face.
Yeah.
He doesn't project those moments of his revenge for the world to see.
Yeah.
It's just cold-blooded murder, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know how that's going to change
Mm.
what happens for the rest of the film.
When the outcome of it, though, Dantes, he realises that it's all wrong and then walks away from it. So, surely V would feel the same way, as that he butchers them in cold blood still, and then just realises that he has to have an outcome for himself.
Possibly?
Because this isn't going to be for the people, isn't it? Because V is for the people, but V is now in...
They don't play it up as much in the film, but the suggestion there, especially in the courtroom scene in Act 3, is that what he's doing here is because of the damage they have wrought on the people who've invested money in them. So he is doing it for altruistic purposes. It's just the movie doesn't ever show...
I see what you mean.
The closest it gets is the revelation that he sold Ali Pasha out to the Turk.
Yes.
Is about the closest you get to seeing the effects of their villainy on others apart from him.
Mm.
So you're saying we should be seeing more of the injustice that's caused by their actions?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think that works, because I also think as V's vendetta goes on, we're going to start losing scenes. It's more personal and direct, and therefore quicker in a lot of ways. We need to bring some of this back in, so we start to see, as you say, like the justification for V's actions.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what. I mean, we don't really have to touch on it that much, but we need to just throw some scenes in of people suffering, all the people who may have had stuff foreclosed by Danglars and have ended up on the streets and all this kind of thing.
That's what I was thinking. Danglars' one's going to be the easiest to show, people being made destitute, refused loans,
Yes.
all those things.
You can even tie that into de Villefort, because he's the king's prosecutor. You know, this guy's trying to bring a case against me. It would be really nice if he didn't win. So using his office to make sure enemies just disappear.
Yes. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So I suppose the other side then very quickly we have to look at is Albert and Evie. Now we need to bring them back into it as well. And how do we still get him freeing Albert in Rome so that as his entry? Because if he's never going to appear himself in public, are we going to say that he's going to set up Jacopo as a proxy for him?
Obviously, that's when Dante's introduced himself as the Count, and I kind of feel like we want to have that there. Somebody needs to know who he is.
Yes.
And it feels like in this situation, this is kind of a proxy of the situation with V meeting Evie. It's like the first hiccup in his plan. I think maybe his intention was just to have him kidnapped and have him killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then something about the boy makes him realise that he's innocent.
as you say, they're going to just kill him if we have V just in the shadows, watching because he wants to see it.
Yes.
But when he sees how forthright and how just Albert is, he
Well, this, I mean,
proves his honour.
That's what I mean, because Albert is that figure that Evie was. He's the innocent one in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we can cheek a bit of... Instead, we can cheek, if you like, a staged fight to free him.
Yes.
Where V kind of comes in and beats up the smugglers and they all scatter. And that's like the first time you get to see him with the mask.
In this physical presence? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's always in the shadows.
Yes.
And then Jacopo can rescue him, get him out of there, and he's like, who was that man? Oh, that's Count V. We can then relocate everything to Paris.
I mean, it kind of gets us where we want to go.
Yeah.
It'll help us unwind to the third act, I guess, or to wrap things up quite nicely.
Well, there's still quite a bit of this one to go. Because we need to decide what he does. Is he going to lay the same plans to try and trap them? Probably not. Which is a shame, because I thought the ball that he throws with the tableau, and they have the different tableaus of Ali Pasha, it's kind of a foil for taking over a TV station and showing people what they don't want to see.
Well, it's like you were saying about Jacopo and Ali being his proxies. I think maybe in this case, this is a situation that we could use them to be those proxies for that show. It's like Proteins, like our patron wants to throw you a party to show off to you. That would be a part of his revenge.
I mean, there's bits that happen in between this. Obviously, when it'll be when Evie and V, if they actually meet.
Yeah, that's the bit that would be skipping over. But for the purposes of this, he could have the party and then Mondego would storm out, and that's when V gets him. Like,
yes.
You know, out in the night, all alone, when all of the hobnobs are inside, not going to see anything.
And they have, oh, that's fantastic.
And that's when V, now I've completely destroyed your world. Fuck you.
Yes. Now you know who I am.
Yeah.
Out with his knife. So you're going to have knives? Are we just going to allow him to have a sword?
I said the two knives.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they are kind of his thing.
His trademark thing, yeah. Again, an interesting duel, because Mondego will have his sword. And rapier against knives. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gives an advantage against the others, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, got a nice little duel going there. That's lovely. We do need to step back and discuss the potential meeting of Evie and V. Yeah. Obviously, would Albert... I mean, because I'm imagining that Albert can be like, why have you hit your face? What was it? It's like a terrible accident a long time ago or something like that. So he...
Fighting bandits in the hills outside of Rome.
He knows he's disfigured. He'd still... I think Albert's the kind of person who'd still want to introduce the person who saved him to his mother.
Mm-hmm.
But would V allow it?
I suppose it depends on how V's weakness for her. How much does he still want to see her?
Well, we know as you said before, we know in V for Vendetta he has that quality to him, those feelings, but he always pulls back from it, doesn't he?
But he's so in love with Evie, though.
Yeah. I reckon he would allow it. Now, the question is,
how much you can guarantee that basically she's not going to recognise him, at least not by his face.
Must be his voice. But then again, at the same time, Evie doesn't recognise his voice when she's imprisoned in the film. And you can quite clearly hear in a few spots that it's definitely Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, you can definitely hear it, yeah.
It might have to be something that he says, which is maybe something that he said to her back in the day.
Yes, then it makes sense. It would be like a particular phrase from when they were courting her.
The obvious one would just be as he disappears, he just says, God is in the rain. Yeah.
Right.
Well, somehow I think that covers everything, doesn't it? I think we
does he tell her about his plan?
What, in this act?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen in this scene anyway, in the film anyway. Yeah, that does. It brings us up to the end of Act 2, more or less.
We replace him going home and shooting himself with V dispatching him.
Dispatching, yes.
Which then also starts to bring in, because of the political position that Mondego had, accusations of this terrorist.
Common criminal murdering people in the streets.
Murdering the gentry or the polite society of Paris.
Yeah.
So they can demonise him through that.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Made it there? Yep, okay.
that was, again, we kind of brushed over a few bits, but we got to the essence of it.
Yes.
And that just leaves us Act 3 to have a look at, which we will be doing on Friday, as always. So please, come back and join us then, and we look forward to seeing you.
As always, guys, TTFN.
Caretake.
Ba 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 ba.